Ladies and gentlemen, it is here again, another episode of the Soul Sessions featured here on Wrestling Republic. With me today is a director, film guy, as we say. He is the director of the Ballad of Gia and Frankie, John Ambrose. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Ben?
Oh, I'm very well. It's always good to get another episode out in the world of professional wrestling. So, for our fans who are not familiar, John, tell us your story of being a film director.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thanks for having me on. Anytime I get the opportunity to talk wrestling, talk filmmaking, and especially this documentary, it's a pleasure. For me, so my background is in entertainment law. I was working with musicians, actors, film studios for a number of years, and then I thought, hey, why don't I do this myself? I'm a creative guy, enjoy just creating things from scratch, and just was started to look for those those stories that I found were portraying the underdog, right?
Mm-hmm.
And their rise and all the trials and tribulations that they went through. Those are the type of stories I was looking for. So anything that was about LGBTQ individual and everything that they were facing, or people in South Africa and rising up, from basically ashes there, literally, to become, a famous a famous football player. So these types of stories is what I was looking for, and that's what brought me to this story in general, the Ballad of Gia and Frankie.
Oh, it's good. Always good to find stories in the craziest of places.
Yeah.
So going back to film as well, was there a particular interest in film from a young age? Was there a particular film that just caught your interest and was like, yeah, that's the one I love stories from?
Oh, I mean, gosh, growing up, I was watching a lot of Hitchcock. I also had two older sisters that would play like the worst of the worst horror movies for me. So like from the beginning, like age 3, 4, I'm being exposed to really intense scenes, really intense stories, and I think that piqued my interest. So I mean, whether it was Psycho and and just the way that Hitchcock painted the picture, built up the suspense, that really would get me excited too. Even like Braveheart and like the epic the sort of epic stories of someone again rising from nothing. Those are the types of things that just would get me really excited, and I would go to the cinema at least once a week, and to this day it's the same thing. It's just like I just want to just consume as much film and documentaries as possible.
Yeah, of course, and always gather as much information as you can and then create your own little stories to tell out to the world.
Exactly.
It was that sort of thing. And from obviously the media world to the wrestling world as well, you must have been a wrestling fan at a young age, or did you catch on to it later in life?
Yeah, no, a young age. So actually, ever since I was 6 years old, would wake up, watch wrestling, usually with friends. So that's part of the story here, which we'll get into. But usually, meeting up with friends to watch WrestleMania and Raw, and just from the beginning. So like for me, it was always Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior and Andre the Giant. Those and I'll still go back to those stories. I'll still go on YouTube or wherever, or look at my old DVDs to watch these matches. Like that when there was there's still wrestling is still evolving, but like I loved the drama. I loved watching the Ultimate Warrior interviews where he's like a complete lunatic, and like the amount of fire and energy behind him, like that kind of drama is what really was appealing to me. Plus also just like they're kicking ass and they're just like these awesome characters, and they have these storylines that are just like ridiculous. But yeah, I love the drama. I love the interviews and the back and forth. That was like one of my favorite parts of wrestling.
Yeah,
still is
true superheroes coming to life, as they say. Eh?
Yeah.
As a director as well, you must obviously, studying film and everything, looking at wrestling as well, had multiple storylines that people have enjoyed. As a director, is there a particular storyline you look to and think that could have worked as a feature film?
For like a wrestling type story?
Yeah.
Or
like a storyline for wrestlers were involved when you think of that, like, yeah, that's good media. That could be a great story to show the public.
Oh, there's so many. I mean, like, there's just like just there's so much creativity behind the storylines that were created by Vince McMahon and some of the others, like Doink the Clown, and there was a second Doink that was hiding under the ring, and like that is just like ridiculous. Andre the Giant too. They've made documentaries about him. If y'all haven't seen the documentary about Andre the Giant, it's called, let's see, it's probably just called Andre the Giant. It's fantastic. But like, yeah, that like I don't think they ever made like a feature film about him. But there's like he is a larger than life individual, and like had such a big heart, so fierce as well. And again, rising from nothing to to like the biggest star in wrestling. Ultimate Warrior too as well. There's so much there, like so much struggle there, and he's not with us anymore. But like I feel like that would be a really amazing story. To tell about him, to tell about his rise and fall, and then rise, and then he came back. James Helwig came back, and then he passed away in 2014. But so many great stories out there that I feel like maybe one day I'll have a chance to tell them.
Who knows? Well, hey, you've had a great start. Let's go on to the Ballad of Gia and Frankie. So, how did this story fall into your laps?
Oh man, very personal actually. So, so Justin, aka, well, I won't give it away yet, but Justin is someone who I grew up with since I was 7-8 years old. Was good friends with him. Would go over his house to watch wrestling. Watch once a month we would do that. He had a ring set up in his basement, and he was just like he I mean I couldn't keep up. He was like training. I feel like at age 8 years old, like he's just like working out, training, knew all the moves, but like it was a good time getting my ass kicked. But anyways, so I was friends with him until we were about 15 or 16. Then he went to another school, and sort of fell out of touch. And that continued. I went to college. He was doing his thing. But like I knew, like he always had this dream that he's going to become a wrestler. He's going to become a professional wrestler. And my friends and I were like, yeah, okay, sure. Like that's keep dreaming, sort of in a way. But years later, I get a call from my friend Oliver, and he's like, like Justin, he became a professional wrestler. Like he's doing this. Like he's on radio. He's doing matches. He's like rising through the ranks. I'm like, this is great. Like I couldn't believe it. And so, not too long after that, we got in touch, and he told me a little bit about what was going on. He had invited me to one of his matches, so I was like really, pumped for him. And then I started, to see these stories come out about him and about a rival of his, Frankie Firestarter, and it was strange. I was like, who is this Frankie guy? And Justin, I talked about it for a bit. He had no idea who it was, and he was very disturbed by this individual. And like there was all this back and forth that happened. I think this is 2014. All this back and forth that happened for a year, and then there was some controversy, and then all of a sudden Frankie disappeared. And the whole situation, it's disturbing, to say the least. And so Justin and I sort of stayed in touch, and then around 2019 I thought, okay, I'd already been at this point making films for some years now, and I thought, hey, this is a perfect story. Not only tell the story about Gia Savitz, and everything, again, rising from the ashes, rising from nothing, so many trials that he went through because of who he was and because of what his dreams were. And, not only receiving it from his parents, but from friends, from when he was training, through his whole life. But still, face these challenges and was able to achieve so much. But so tell that story, but also this Frankie Firestarter, and because it's very closely tied in terms of the catalyst, I think, that changed a lot for Gia Savitz and in his career, and helped let's just say cause some transformation as well. So there was basically so Justin and I were talking, and there was all of this footage that was already out there on YouTube, stuff that Frankie had put out that was still on YouTube because the guy or woman, I'm not sure, disappeared, and all this footage remained. Also, Justin had all this home footage as well on YouTube, and I said, "Here's a concept. Let's make an entire documentary using home footage, using these battle videos that Gia and Frankie put out, um, taking the battles that were happening on Twitter between them, and let's create a 25-minute documentary from this, and actually." It's even beyond that. I mean, I can go into that in a bit, but this is what we put out some trailers, we put out some short stories from this before we put out the documentary, and like we were getting this amazing response. Like we were starting to build this cult following even before the documentary came out, and now we decide, okay, we're gonna put the documentary out and then continue to build this story. So there will be a feature film, there will be a comic book that's in the works right now. I mean, it's just insane because it's such a ridiculous story and also an inspirational one that it's like it's very appealing to so many people. Thousands of people have been reaching out about this. When's the next one coming out? So it's a really exciting time.
Yeah, we've got the whole Gia and Frankie cinematic universe on the roads here, it seems.
I think so, and it's just like, again, like once you see it, it's it's a disturbing, strange, sort of avant-garde in a way, but it's a story that just needed to be told. That's really what it comes down to. Again, not only just to tell what Gia went through, and as a wrestler, what wrestlers go through, let alone one who is LGBTQ, but just like it's a tough business. What this does to your body, to your psyche. The average lifespan of a wrestler, it's not that high. Maybe it's in the low 50s. I don't have the exact statistic, but if you look at the hundreds of wrestlers that have been lost at an early age, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, so there's a lot that they go through to live their dreams and to entertain and to compete, right? And that's a story that needs to be told. And I wasn't seeing any of that out there. And that's why I was like, well, here, Justin, who I knew, Gia Savitz's character, and Frankie Firestar, this is a story that I need to tell that could then lead to other stories about other, wrestlers in this business and all the, the issues that they face.
No, very much. It's always good to get those sort of stories out there and just be more prominent for the public. We've also had previous wrestlers on the show as well of the LGBTQ community, Shay Monet, Scottish wrestler, and Kid Bandit as well. And it's always good to get their people's stories out there as well. And obviously they've had triumphs and problems growing up with who they are. And there's some people out there who are just being mean and all that, and say, why do these stories need to be told and talked out there? And you see that they're very important representation. So from your point of view, John, why do you think it's so important that these stories from these kind of individuals need to be brought to the light more?
Because I don't think people fully understand what like, first of all, you look at the world today. The world today is in not the best state, right? You have bullies, you have dictatorship, we're very polarized as a world, not just the United States, not just the UK. We are becoming more and more polarized, right? And it's frightening. It's like, we are not, we're so interconnected now, but drifting further apart. And through, I think, these types of stories and getting closer to characters that are, you don't have to be an LGBTQ wrestler to, you don't have to be LGBTQ or a wrestler to relate to these types of stories, of feelings of shame, feeling of inadequacy, feelings of like, I can't take this anymore. But like, once you start to, see these types of stories, read, whether it's through a book, film, TV, documentary, it just opens up something in you. I think it's very therapeutic in that way. And that's why I think, because the world we're living in is tumultuous, it's scary, like to see these characters, to see that you could relate to them. It brings out some more humanity in you. It makes you feel hopeful that we as a human race can persevere, can move past these these terrible issues that we're facing. So that's really my inspiration, like that these characters need to be put out there because I think they have the power to change the world, right? So someone needs to tell these stories, and that's what my mission is.
No, it was a very good mission, John. Honestly, respect to you for doing it. It's always good to see.
Thank you.
Moving into the ballad itself, it opened up very funny with the home video and the chair shot, which you could hear the shriek of somebody in the background not liking that. I just wanted to know more story behind that whole thing. Do you have any more context to that?
Oh yeah. So, I mean, as I mentioned, there's many wrestlers who are their dream is to become a wrestler, and they share this dream with their parents, and their parents are like, "What, are you kidding me? Like, first of all, it's fake. Second of all, you're going to destroy your body. Third, you have no chance. Like, you're not going to make any money in this. This is a joke. Like, if you're so obsessed with wrestling, just go and watch it." And this is precisely what Justin Gia Savage's faced. This is how the documentary starts: is a home video of him wrestling. He set up a wrestling match in his basement with a number of other wrestlers, and his mom walks downstairs, sees him doing his thing, is very disturbed by it, then sees one of the wrestlers get hit with a chair, and she just loses it. She's like, "What? Doesn't that hurt? Are you kidding? Like, what's the matter?" And again, she says the word, "If you're so obsessed with wrestling, go and watch it. Like, this is the end of it. Like, no more wrestling for you, Justin." In front of his friends and colleagues. Like, it's but Justin had this on YouTube, and he said, "Yeah, I think this." I'm like, "This needs to be part of it. This needs to be the beginning of the documentary. It's setting the stage." And he agreed, and that's what you'll see when you.
A very good setting the stage for the events to come.
Oh man, yeah. No, it's wild.
Oh yeah, very much. We won't give too much away because I definitely want the viewers to watch this documentary. It was definitely a blast watching through it. One part I do want to cover within the documentary were the Frankie Firestarter videos. I mean, we could say what they are, but I don't think YouTube would like those. They'd probably be very, very unhappy. But it's from your mindset going through them. What were you thinking?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, it was 2014, 2015 when like these were first brought to my attention. I mean, I don't want to give anything away, but there's some just like the first thought was this is kind of scary. Like, I know, like in wrestling, like I remember again, Ultimate Warrior, some of his promo videos. There's one where he was WrestleMania was coming up, and he was going to be facing Hulk Hogan, and he was asking the pilots to crash the plane that Hulk Hogan was in on the. I mean, like just like insane, right? So my first thought was when I'm watching Frankie Firestarter battling against Gia, oh, like this is reminiscent of this. Like he's channeling some Ultimate Warrior, some sickness is there that's coming out here. So but it's disturbing. Again, I won't give anything away, but like. I've never seen anything like it. I've seen a lot of like wrestling promo, type videos, and this is it's funny at times for sure, but also quite disturbing.
Oh, very much. You never know what kind of individual's got that crazy mindset going on. Obviously, in the story as well as mentioned, as well in the description as well, that Frankie disappears, and we haven't heard from him since. And there's a wee text in the documentary that says maybe it could have been one of these sort of deceased wrestlers, and of course, the Ultimate Warrior sadly passed away around that same time frame. Do you think Frankie Firestarter could have been the Ultimate Warrior?
I wouldn't go that far, but I will say that there's some connections with a number of different wrestlers. So again, don't want to give anything away, but there's something there. There's a number of wrestlers that passed around that time. I think it was like 7. It was a really freaky number. And some of the references, I really started to do some research and speak to some other wrestlers, speak to other fans, and get their take on it. And they have some ideas, but yeah, it remains a mystery.
Sometimes the best stories are the mysteries ones, eh?
Yeah, exactly.
So now going on for the rest of yourself, John, what's the rest of you're looking like for yourselves and your productions? Anything in the pipeline?
Yeah. So, okay. Well, first and foremost is just continuing to get the Ballad of Gia and Frankie out there.
Mhm.
The response is fantastic. We were in. We got accepted to 18 different film festivals. We'll
Oh
have a
wow,
couple other
congrats.
film festivals. Thank you. That we're waiting to hear back from. And then we're working on the feature film for this, because it's like there's just it's one of those things. It's like I will compare this with George Martin, right? And he has,
Mm.
book 6 that we're waiting of Song of Ice and Fire. And he's, like everyone's waiting for this. And okay, yeah, then, Game of Thrones came out, and then maybe people are like, I don't know if I care as much about this. But in the meantime, I think he's really struggling, like, to finish this book, but he's
Mhm.
writing several other books. He's published several other books in this period between book 5 and book 6. My point is that my focus is on this storyline, so
Mhm.
instead of focusing on other stories out there and films, documentaries, like I want to see this through and make the next. There's going to be the feature film. There's going to be a couple of other related wrestling series that are part of this. So that's my focus. So again, I don't want to give anything too far away, but as I said, there's the comic book, there's the feature film, and there's just so much to tell there.
Mm.
And then like there are some other wrestlers that I've been looking into, wrestler stories, and I can't say who yet, but that could be the future, the next couple years, also telling their stories in a documentary.
Oh, wow. Well, we're definitely in for a treat from yourself, John. Well, I will say as well, obviously, like, we don't know who Frankie was. If Frankie is watching this, what would you be your message to him?
Seek help. Seek help immediately. And I think you have a lot. I think you have a lot to make up for, and I think it's time to reach out to Justin and make some amends. That's all I'll say.
Well, Frankie, you've heard it here first on Soul Sessions, mate. It's time to make those amends.
Oh man,
Well,
get
as
help.
well, John, I want to help, obviously, this film get out there as well. So if our viewers are interested by the story, how can they view this documentary?
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to provide the listeners with a special link where they could, the first 10 people to access this link will get 50% off the price of rental. So
Hey.
so what we'll do is make sure that everyone has access to that now. I'll tell you the link to do so. Okay, here we go. I'll make sure it's specialized for your audience.
Oh,
Wrestling
wow. Well, viewers, don't
Republic,
say I'm not
Soul
nice to you.
Sessions. Yep, no doubt. So here we go. Okay. So your link is, there we go. All right. It is bit.ly/wrestling republic. There it is. So bit.ly/wrestling republic. And with that link, you'll be able to access the film for half off. But again, that's only for the first 10 people to access this link. So definitely recommend jumping on that. And you start to look around. We have our website, we have our Twitter, we're on Instagram. So there's a lot of other different storylines. So I definitely recommend checking that out. And that's just the handle is just Gia Frankie Doc. Gia Frankie FRANKIE Doc DOC. So like
Well,
I guess I said Twitter, Instagram, it's all over the place.
that was great to hear. Well, thank you very much for that link. And viewers, you
Yeah.
be very appreciative. I always like to provide you the best content. So, don't flame me in the comments like before. Let's have some fun here. Come on. Calm. Well, we're coming to the end of our time here, John. I personally thank you very much for coming on. It's been a blast to have you on the show.
Yeah, my pleasure. No, as I said, it's always, it's so important to tell this story, to tell these types of stories. I appreciate, bringing this to light and having me on.
Oh, well, great. Well, viewers, as always, I like to say on the Soul Sessions, always be kind to one another. Have a great day, and thanks for tuning in for the latest episode.